Welcome back, welcome back. We're still on activity one, but the next thing we have to do for activity one is the risk assessment essentially. So this is just the assessment section. Now this table here is given to you in the template. So the first thing I would do before I start typing anything is copy and paste a blank version of this template. So as it's empty now, highlight everything. So you can either click and highlight, or you can click on the thing at the top left hand corner. So that whatever that thing is there, click it, highlight it. You can go right click and you can go copy, or you can simply press Control and C on your keyboard. Then I would click underneath the table and paste it, and maybe paste a few more, just so we always have an empty one that we can copy and paste when filling the table in. Now, what's the first thing that we do? It says threat number, threat title, the probability, potential size of loss, and the risk severity, and finally explanation of the threat in context. Most of the information that we need for this table here, we already have. I think the only thing we don't have at this stage is the explanation of the threat in context. So let's fill in everything else. Let's leave this for last. And the way I do this, let me scroll all the way back up to the stuff I did in the same activity one, but just in a previous section. So again, this was my empty stuff, my empty table. I'm going to copy the first detail, well, the first set of details here. So I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to bring it all the way down to my table and maybe just paste it above or below, whatever works for you. I'm going to paste mine there. And all I'm going to do is to fill this information into my table here. So let me zoom in as much as I can. It says threat number. I'm going to label this one 01. You can label it 1 if you want. You can label it 001, whatever you want. But you want to start from 1. So I'm just going to say 01. Reason being, I like labeling things with 0 and 1 because just in case I go past number 9, I like to have 2 digits. There's no other reason behind this. But you can just name it 1 if you want. Threat title is going to be the same thing here. So this is the threat title. So I can simply copy and paste most of this information here. So I have threat from the previous section, which was the risk severity matrix. I'm going to copy this, and that's my threat title. It says probability. Again, same thing. I copy and paste from where it says very likely because I already worked this stuff out. Whatever you have in your risk severity matrix, you must have the same information copied here. You must have the same thing. If you have it different, it's wrong. Our potential size of loss, I'm going to say major for mine. So I'm going to copy that, paste that there. And risk severity extreme, copy and paste that there. Now, as you can see, I filled all of this in a few seconds really. And everything I filled in here, I already had. So maybe a good way to do this would be to go back and fill in every single one of these and then come back and fill in the explanation of the threat in context. So what does it mean, explanation of the threat in context? This simply means, why do you think this is a threat? And give as much detail as possible as to the reason why. That's it. So why do I think my Wi-Fi being hacked could potentially be an issue? Or why is it an issue? Why is it something I'm concerned about? Why do I think this is a threat? Quite simply, we are now in a busier location. We moved away from a rural area to a very busy complex, right? We are on the 19th floor, of a 20-story building, meaning that there are people above us, there are people below us. The public can actually get into the building because there are bars and restaurants present, and it's said that the WCs, which I do believe were toilets, the WCs and the stairs are used by the public. So some hacker, some attacker, some nefarious person, some bad person could use that opportunity to get into the building, scan for a Wi-Fi, hack. The Wi-Fi isn't particularly hard to hack if it's not set up properly. Hack onto the Wi-Fi, they get access to the network, and once they get access to the network and they can see all the PCs, and they might be able to reconfigure the switch, they might be able to attach worms in our network to send the information to other people. They could hold our system at ransom. There are so many things that could happen if the Wi-Fi gets hacked, but those are the reasons I would put. Now I'm going to write that down quickly, and I'm going to come back and go over each point. So here is everything I've written. Now you don't have to do it the way I do it. I prefer to have things separated I don't like to have the one big block of text, but if you prefer to type that way, that's perfectly okay. So let me read through and try and give some context where possible. I'm not sure I'm going to do every single thing because I realize these videos are getting very, very long. So I might only do 2 more, but let me go over this one in as much detail as possible so you at least get what's happening. So let me just quickly review this. So again, we have the threat number as 01 because this is my first one. My second one would be 02. My third would be 03, and so on and so forth. The threat title is the same thing I had in the risk severity matrix table. So I just copied it in. That's what I did. My probability, exactly the same thing I had in my risk severity matrix. My potential size of loss, exactly the same thing from my risk severity matrix. And the risk severity itself is the same thing I had from the risk severity matrix. So none of this information here is new or unique, right? It's simply stuff we've copied over. Now, explanation of the threat in context. In context means the scenario that you've been given. Why do you think that this is a threat? And give as much detail as possible. I've said we have moved to a busy area in a building with 20 floors. We are on the 19th floor, meaning there are other companies above and below us. Now, that's not particularly important. It's people having access to the place that's really important, but I've just put that in there anyway. The public now has access to sections of the building where it might very well be possible that the Wi-Fi signal might get to. So I believe they said that people use the stairs, the lifts, and the WCs, meaning the toilets. So what that could mean is that someone could simply go up the stairs, even if they cannot get past the door, they can still pick up the Wi-Fi signal. And if they can pick up the Wi-Fi signal, essentially they can hack it. And if they can hack it, they can get into the system and do what they want. So I've said here, a hacker or attacker can potentially gain access to the network if there's a weakness in the Wi-Fi, or if they find one, or even if they just brute force hack it, right? After gaining access, the attacker can install worms, spyware, and other malware to steal or hold the company to at ransom, not to ransom. Now, there are quite a few other things that we can do, but I've only mentioned the two that popped into my head at the time. Now, there are many, many types of malware, but I've only mentioned worms and spyware, and that the company could be held at ransom, their data could be stolen, the data could be deleted, the data could be destroyed. There are so many things that could happen. And any unauthorized access to the network and by proxy the computers could spell, not spiel, it should be spell disaster for the company, which could lead to some kind of loss, whether it be financial, reputation, whatever loss. I think it was in the spec somewhere. You had to go over the types of losses. I don't remember all of them now, to be frank, but the point is any unauthorized access to the network and by proxy the computers could spell disaster for the company, which could lead to some kind of loss. So if the computers get hacked, and the attackers decide, you know what, we're going to hold on to these files until you pay us 50 Bitcoin. Then the company, if they decide to pay, which is never a good idea to pay, is going to be out 50 Bitcoin or whatever that is in real money. And also, they're not going to be able to do any work because their systems have been compromised. So that's going to be time, that's going to be money. The hackers could actually release whatever information they find into the public, and people will know that they've been hacked. I think years ago, I believe it was British Airways that got hacked, and British Airways didn't tell anyone that they got hacked for months and months and months, and people's bank details got leaked online. And it was only after the attackers leaked this information that people knew, and it was a massive hit to their reputation. They're quite a big company, so they're fine now, but a relatively small company that doesn't have a massive reputation to come back is going to be essentially shut down. So that's how I would answer this first one. I'm going to go ahead and fully do the second one, come back and again read through and give context. I am now on threat number 2. And to be fair, what I could do is even join 2 of these things. So let me go back up to threat number 2 from my risk severity matrix. This is my threat number 2 here, giving system access to external people or external bodies. They could be clients, they could be companies, it really doesn't matter. And number 3, I could have really joined these 2 things where it says Sing is not a network specialist. That's a massive, massive threat. Because these 2 really and truly, they should probably both be very likely, major and extreme. I could have joined them. So I'm going to skip this, doing this number 3, because it kind of wraps into giving access to external people. So let me go back down. Let me explain what I've done. And again, my threat number is 02, or for you, it could just be 2. My threat title is giving system access to external people, and I could put maybe here, Sing is not a network specialist, right? Because again, these tie very closely into each other. The probability I've said is likely. But for Singh not being a network specialist, I would put very likely for the probability of a threat occurring, because he's not supposed to be an expert. Well, they said he's not an expert. The potential size of loss, I'm going to say major, and that the risk severity, I'm going to say extreme. And here's my explanation in context, I guess. Giving outsiders access to your network or system always comes with risks. This guy, I think his name was Singh. I just remembered, right? I said the guy, but the Singh is not a network specialist. He might configure something wrong or incorrectly. He's not a specialist and might give someone else admin access. I am reaching here a bit because it's very hard to give someone else admin access, but it is possible because he's not a specialist. He just knows a bit of IT. If for some reason he configures something incorrectly, or someone posing as a client manages to get access to sensitive data as a result, they could cause a lot of damage. This could result in malware being installed into the system. Let me stop here for a second. This could be the person, again, more or less the same as before, copying the files. This could be the person actually going in and deleting the files. So let's just say you're a competitor of someone else, and this company is working on both your things, and you manage to go in and delete stuff. So let's say Samsung and Apple, and this company does stuff for Samsung and Apple, and Samsung gets hold of Apple stuff. They could go in and delete all the new designs, all the pictures, everything could be deleted, right? As the access is authorized, albeit by mistake, it might take longer to detect that there has been a breach, meaning the attacker would have more time to carry out their scheme. Because Singh is not a specialist, and because Singh has access or might accidentally give, I don't know, me, King Boss, he might give me admin access, which he definitely should not. He's giving me admin access. I've decided, you know what, I'm going to go in and delete all of Apple's stuff. It might take them longer to realize that anything bad is happening or anything bad has happened, because the system hasn't flagged anything up, because he said I should be admin, I'm admin, and admin, or whoever I am in this case, is allowed to do whatever I'm allowed to do. So the system might not flag anything up, and it might just be a normal working day, a normal working week, until someone physically goes to check and says, oh, the Apple folder is completely empty. Oh, maybe we moved it somewhere. No. We can then go back and look. It was deleted by person A on this date at this time, but how did person A even get access to this? Because person A is a client. Then they're going to turn to Singh and say, Singh, you configured this incorrectly, so you gave this person access that they shouldn't have. This is now my threat number 3. Just like I've done before, my threat title is wrong. So what I've said here, this is just what I had before: shared internet access, limited control over the router. Now, this is not the threat itself. This is what causes the threat. I think I just copied this from when I was making notes. So you should maybe change this to what is the actual threat. The actual threat could be, well, quite a few things. The main one is someone else hacking the router, or someone gaining access to the router. Unauthorized access to router means that your systems are compromised. So again, the threat title should be unauthorized access to router. And why is this important? Well, I'll explain in a bit. The probability, I would say likely or very likely, because again, you're sharing the internet, you're sharing this thing with 19 other people. The potential size of impact is major in my opinion. Risk severity, I would say high or extreme, high or very high or extreme, anything above there. The building owner provides us with internet access, because I remember them saying WE gives you a patch panel which you can plug into, and so on and so forth. We have little to no control over any of the policies once the data leaves our subnet. So again, remember, we're connected to the switch inside of our network. We have everything connected to our switch. And then when the switch is connected to the patch panel, that gives us the internet access, so we can then get to the outside world. This might be cheaper and more convenient. However, we have details of clients and their trade secrets. They mentioned trade secrets before. We have our servers connected to our switch, and the switch plugged into the patch panel that gives us internet access. If an attacker got access to the patch panel or access to the main router of the building, which provides access to the internet, they would be able to see everything that comes into the network and everything that goes out of the network. So because this is not our internet and we don't have any control over it, because we're simply told plug your cable in here and we'll deal with the rest, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So I could plug something in. I could be sending an email to Microsoft saying, okay, I'm going to make the £1 billion payment on Friday. Here are the bank details I'm going to be sending it to. Here is a link you need to click on to accept the money, blah, blah, blah. The person who controls this network, who controls the internet, because Singh is not a network specialist as well. Well, let me get to that part. Singh is not a network specialist, and if the data we hold is not encrypted while being held or while being sent and received, the attacker will have a backdoor into all the inner workings of the company. So when we hold very sensitive data, it's always a good idea to encrypt it. He might not know that because he's just a normal IT person that's good at IT, but he's not a network specialist. When the data is being sent, it should be encrypted. When the data is being received from the other end, it's normally automatically decrypted if we're the right person who's supposed to receive it. So that's maybe not something he needs to worry about. The internet could also get congested as other 19 floors might have similar access. So there's nothing that's going to be special about your company. You're going to get a normal patch panel. The building owner says, plug your Ethernet cable in here, and you should have access to the internet. If we have any mission critical systems which need a certain amount of bandwidth, this could become an issue. Now, this is a threat, I think, not because someone is going to get access to the system, but because this could potentially damage our systems. This could potentially damage the company. And let me give some more context. Let's say you're an alternative to PayPal, a payment company, right? You're accepting and doing thousands of transactions per second. This is going to use up a lot of bandwidth, right? But because you're in a building with 19 other people up and down the floors, your internet speed is not being prioritized for any reason because there are 19 other companies here. Why would we give you everything? The restaurant is probably going to offer free Wi-Fi to everybody that comes in. The bars are probably going to do the same, and any other companies inside the same building. So maybe there is even a gym. I don't know, right? Because of this, I'm a payment company and I need to constantly have a very, very good internet speed, let's say. But because the other 19 people are connected, this is going to slow down the bandwidth for everyone, well, especially for me, and some things might not work. Maybe my system was designed to work at let's say 1 millisecond or 10 milliseconds, whatever the case is. Because so many people are in the building, this is going to be an issue. Now, I don't want you guys to focus too much on something like that, even though it's a really, really good point to make. It's not inherently a threat. The only way it could be a threat is if the system completely goes down, someone has to go restart it maybe, and the person gets access to stuff. But again, this isn't inherently like a massive, massive threat. The main thing is going to be that we don't have any control over the data once it leaves our subnet. We're simply told to plug our cable in somewhere and just hope for the best. Hopefully, the building manager is not some crazy, super smart IT person that knows how to snoop on our packets and get all of our information. That's it. The only other thing I would go back and mention is this one here. As I said before, I'm not going to do every single one because I think the videos are getting really long. No encryption on the servers. This is not something that was said to us specifically, but I'm making the assumption simply because they didn't tell us that it was encrypted. So I'm making the assumption it is not encrypted. Encryption, again, is just a way of jumbling stuff so that the person who is not supposed to read it, if they manage to get access to it, it has no use to them. So for example, if someone steals your iPhone or your Android phone and they don't have the PIN to get in or the face or the fingerprint, they can't get in, number one. And even if they do manage to get in, let's say your text messages are locked behind a PIN, they won't be able to read your messages. Also, Singh not being a network specialist, he might not know that the data on servers need to be encrypted because again, trade secrets are being kept there. There was nothing mentioned about encrypting the servers. So that's just another thing I wanted to mention, but let me scroll back down here. Please feel free to pause the video. This is my threat number 1 again. Wi-Fi connection being hacked. My threat number 2 is giving system access to external people. That's the threat could be the external people gaining unauthorized system access. That's for threat number 2. And for threat number 3, I have unauthorized access to the router. Because again, we don't have direct access to it. It's being done by someone else, and that person could be hacked. That person could let someone in who they shouldn't let in. Hopefully that was useful. Hopefully that was clear enough. And thank you for watching.